Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Hello, Kentucky, and welcome to this last Wednesday of October. I'm Greg Williams, President and CEO of Building Healthy Relationships, also known as Love and Lordship, and you're listening to Kentucky's Voice on 970 WGTK, or possibly viewing on WBNA 21, where faith, family, and freedom are the priorities. I'm excited to host today's program as we discuss cultural, legal, and spiritual issues that affect our Commonwealth and nation, and how we as people of faith and conviction can respond with integrity and courage in truth and love. I got to say, I don't know about you, but it's been a fast year for me as we're basically now through October and entering into my favorite time of the year with Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the great holiday TV and movie specials and family time, especially with two beautiful grandchildren, which is probably why my year has sped up so much. And we just found out we have a third one on the way. We'll be here in April, Lord willing. I hope you have a lot of plans for time with family and loved ones, creating memories that will make each day even more special. If you've got any tips on how to not sell my house and all I have to buy Christmas gifts for my grandchildren, please let me know. I'm just kidding, but only a little. It's a great time of the year for many, but I also know it's a difficult time for some as well. So know that I'm praying you find a way to get beyond the pain and struggle and enjoy all that this season has to offer. With that said, I would also ask that you pray for me as I'm speaking at a national summit for the Protect Child Health Coalition next weekend, November 7th and 8th at American Family Association down in Mississippi. This is an incredible group of men and women who actively work in their states, this nation, and even internationally in some cases to protect and uphold the nuclear or traditional family through legislation, media, education, in healthcare and technology, and any and every other sphere that impacts our children. My focus will be to encourage them as they battle the indoctrination that is occurring on so many levels. So again, I ask for your prayers and thank you for your willingness to do so. In light of that, I spoke last month about 4 giants of the faith that have passed in just the last few weeks. There's Dr. Vodi Bakum, Dr. John MacArthur, Charlie Kirk, and Dr. James Dobson, who founded Focus on the Family, who was actually on with me last month. Focus on the Family was. The question is, who will have the conviction and courage wherever you are, wherever you're planted, and in whatever circumstances or opportunities you have, to be one who stands on God's truth and his kingdom gospel across our commonwealth, across our nation, and beyond. We need spiritual and cultural warriors because I think most of you know we are in a tremendous battle that impacts every part of our lives and every arena of our culture and society. We have to stand strong. And that is what I love about Word Media and Kentucky's Voice, their willingness to do just that, stand firm across the board in a culture that would have us remain silent. I know that Bob and Tom and those are Jim and those who are involved, Dan, that's their goal in their heart. But I also have good friends of mine that help with that as well. David Walls from the Kentucky Family Foundation and Adia Wushner from Kentucky Right to Life, who join me each week on a radio broadcast. They're also part of this occasional Kentucky Voice hosting, and I'm so proud of them and want to encourage them as well. Now, please stay tuned here on WGTK 970 AM or WBNA Channel 21, however you're joining us, for today's special guest, who is a native son of and has deep roots in Kentucky, in Louisville, and right there at the University of Louisville. You don't want to miss his story, his family. You're going to hear all about that, what he's been doing and what he's done, and how he's standing strong for the Lord to touch many lives across Kentucky and this nation. I'm excited as we come back for segment one to be able to introduce this guest to you, so you'll want to stay tuned. Join us. Text your questions or comments to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission and would like to financially support, text KY Voice, KYVOICE, to 53555.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
So Building Healthy Relationships, or DBA, Love and Lordship's vision and mission is to restore and help maintain a biblical worldview through healthy people, relationships, families, and communities that are foundational to thriving societies, governments, education, and all cultural influencers and outcomes. Today, as I promised, we welcome Coach Cliff Marshall, a native son of Kentucky and director of pro athlete training at D1 Sports Companies and founder of God Strong Ministries. Cliff, first of all, I want to say welcome and thanks for taking the time to join me.
Thank you so much, Greg, for having me. I am humbled and honored to be here and excited to share my story today.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I know our listeners and audience are going to love it. They're going to be blessed, encouraged, and challenged by your story. So let's start with this. Give us a little bit of your background and Kentucky roots, starting with our shared home of Harrison County up there in north central Kentucky.
That's right, Greg. I was born and raised in Cynthiana, Kentucky. I know that area is popular because that's where Joe B. Hall was born and raised, the former Kentucky basketball
Be
coach.
careful now. Be careful.
I know. We're also well known for our baseball program at Harrison County High School. We've won multiple state titles there. Mac Whitaker, the head coach, is the all-time winningest coach in the state of Kentucky. But I was born and raised on a farm there. I'm the middle child of three sons. My mom and dad did their best to raise us, and we grew up on a farm there, but my passion was always fitness and sports, and that's what I continue to do to this day.
Yeah. I actually was not in, I think your mom and dad both were a couple of years ahead of me in school, but I played basketball, of course. Your mom was a cheerleader. Your dad, I think, was baseball and football.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I remembered them. I looked up to them because they were a little older than me at the time. And so here we are. I don't want to mention how many years later, but many years later. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you join us on the show. Let's talk about how we got connected, because as I said, I'm just a little bit older than you, Cliff. I think you were maybe just starting school about the time I was graduating from Harrison County.
You're showing your age there, Greg. You didn't have to share that.
But you're such a young guy.
That's right. I like to think so anyway. But no, as you mentioned, Harrison County, population of about 5,000 people in Cynthiana. So everybody knows everybody. You're friendly. Your families are friends. There's so many connections in our community. And I was able to meet you in 2008 through a connection that I had with my brother-in-law, Chris Snowpeck. My wife and I, Stacy, we were looking for marriage counseling. And Chris reached out to us and said, you know what, there's a guy named Greg Williams, born and raised in Harrison County. and he is doing marriage ministry in Lexington, Kentucky, and would love to meet with you guys. And after praying about it, we decided to take that step, and probably one of the best decisions of our life.
Well, I appreciate that, Cliff. I know that's part of what we do with Love and Lordship Ministries, but one of the things I have to say, and I think our audience is going to hear this throughout this program, is that one of the things I said to you and Stacy, because I had known your all's families, like I said, your Stacy's dad was a baseball coach before Coach Whitaker, or was involved with that, and so he was with us when I played. But the thing that I said to you two was, listen, we've got to meet at least once every 2 weeks. And if you can't keep that commitment, then I'm not the person for you. And I think for about 18 months, you guys drove down almost every week from Northern Kentucky to Lexington to meet. And that said a lot to me. So I wanted to encourage you on that. And if you had any comments with regard to that, because I think that's a strong point of what you even do now.
No, we were committed to saving our marriage, and whatever it took, we were going to do. And obviously, you gave us truth in love, and we stood firm in the commitment to making that 90-minute drive down to sit in your office as you planted seeds in our life that are still taking root to this day.
Yeah, in so many ways. And we'll get to more of that. But again, join us. Text your questions or comments to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission of Word Media and Kentucky's Voice, would like to financially support, text KY Voice, that's KYVOICE, to 53555. Now, if you're just joining us, our special guest today is Coach Cliff Marshall, and we're just getting into the story. So we're going to move to something that I know our audience here in the Louisville area is going to love, at least most of them anyway. You mentioned Coach Hall earlier. So we got a few UK fans in Louisville, but I know there's a lot of U of L. Give us your early connection to the Cards at the University of Louisville.
Yeah, Greg, I grew up a diehard Kentucky fan. I dreamed of playing football at the University of Kentucky, and I had a chance to walk on at Kentucky, and was there for a year. But I had a younger brother that was coming out of Harrison County, and he got offered a full ride scholarship to the University of Louisville. And he accepted that scholarship, and I decided to transfer with him. And as I transferred at that time in my life, I was about 20 years old, and I knew I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. So I went in one day and I saw the strength coach at the University of Louisville, and I told him I was wanting to do an internship. And I said, I'll do anything if you just let me be a part of this program and learn from you how to be a strength coach. I said, I'll mop the floors, I'll take out the trash, whatever it is that I can do, I want to be a part of this. And he allowed me that opportunity. So as I was there, I spent 4 years with the program, 2 years as a student assistant strength coach and 2 years as a grad assistant strength coach. And during that time, I was able to meet Jeff Brom, who was the quarterback coach, who's currently the head coach for the University of Louisville. And we became great friends. He was actually in my wedding. We continue to talk quite often to this day. So I am still a big-time Louisville Cardinal fan, especially of their football program. I follow them very closely.
Yeah, and I am as well. I got to tell you, Cliff, and I think Coach Brom has done a great job once again getting them into the top 15, I think, or very close to that, and probably should be closer to the top 10. My wife always says, those preseason polls are, and my wife's not a big sports fan. That's the interesting thing. But she says those preseason polls are worthless,
Right.
And we find out only as we play. But from those humble beginnings, Cliff, we're going to hear more about where the Lord has taken you. And I truly say that with humility and with the poignancy of those words, where the Lord has taken you and your marriage and your family, your vocation. You're going to hear a lot of great things. What was your walk with the Lord like in those college and young adult years?
Well, I will tell you that it was reckless. It was selfish. I knew God, but I didn't fear God. And I didn't follow God. So I kind of did what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, and how I wanted to do it. And, over the course of many years, I had to reap the fruits of those decisions. And those decisions eventually brought me to my knees, where I surrendered to God. And obviously, I know we'll get into that a little bit here later in my story. But my mom and dad, they raised us. My mom and dad went to church. My mom played the piano at church. She would get us up every Sunday morning, make sure me and my two brothers were dressed and ready to go to church. She would even lead us in a Bible study on Sunday nights. And looking back on that, those were seeds that were planted at a very young age in my life. And I know she continues to pray for me and my two brothers, and there's nothing like a mother's prayers. So I'm very grateful for her and my dad and the way they raised us.
Yeah.
But I had to make a decision later in life at 28 years old to surrender to God. And it's the best decision of my life.
Yeah. And that was interesting. We kind of come back full circle to what we talked about a couple of questions or comments ago, as the Lord, through your brother-in-law, through Stacy's brother, Chris Snopek, some people may remember that name from a few years ago, played in the major leagues for quite a while. Chris contacted me and said, I understand you do this. My sister and brother-in-law are struggling. And I think it was a result of what you're saying there, Cliff. But then the Lord got your attention, yours and Stacy's, and there was quite a turnaround.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was a point to where I was broken. I never understood the concept, so to speak, of being born again.
Yeah.
But I think I felt that on December 16th, 2008.
Yeah.
When my marriage was crumbling and my career, was on the outside, looked like everything was going great. I was in the NFL. I look back on my career and I say, this person helped me in my spiritual walk. And that's Greg Williams, right? Jeff Brom helped me on my walk as a coach. He got me an interview with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I ended up getting a job with the Cincinnati Bengals as a strength coach. So many people have helped me on my journey in different ways. But Greg, I reflect on you and what you did for me and my wife in 2008. And, I owe a lot of gratitude to you for reaching out and helping us save our marriage.
Well, I appreciate that, Cliff. I always say I'm just a tool or vehicle like you do. The Lord uses. He's the one that really does it. So join us or text us if you have questions or comments, 502-571-0970. Stay with us as we're going to see the transition in Cliff's life inspire you in your walk in boldness in our culture for Christ. Look forward to segment 2.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Throughout Cliff Marshall's 20-plus year-long coaching journey, he has helped countless athletes become the best version of themselves.
I think the biggest thing for me and what Coach Cliff has really helped me with, just being in the weight room, is just the dedication and the time that he puts in. Since my freshman year and coming into IU, he's been working with me individually, helping me with my strength, explosiveness. Just that consistency that he does has really put me in position to where I'm able to get some of these features, using my vertical jump to block shots, just being strong in the post with the physicality of the Big Ten. I just think that in all doing so, he's a huge part of me being able to call myself a first-team All-American.
Was just so fortunate when he committed to come to Indiana, and then to build that relationship with him over 4 years has been incredible. And we still talk a couple, 2 or 3 times per week. He just called me last week with some questions as he's out in Golden State with the Warriors now for his rookie season.
None of these results would be possible for these IU players without a little penmanship to make a pitch.
I wrote him a letter and said, Coach Woodson, I want to be an Indiana Hoosier and I want to be your strength coach. And I left the letter on his desk. And he got the letter, and a couple days later, he came down to the weight room, and I was training a group of about 6 players. And as he walked into the weight room, I was writing up the workout on the grease board, and I saw him in the corner of my eye, and he just stood and watched. So I brought the players closely to me, and I said, fellas, I need you to be great today. I feel like this is my interview, so I need y'all to bring a lot of energy. And I'll never forget that group. Trace Jackson was a part of that group, and they did awesome. And after the workout was over with, Coach Woodson took me up to his office and told me, I want to continue to keep you as my strength and conditioning coach.
And Cliff brings quite the resume to Woodson's staff, and not just with IU players, but from hundreds of athletes across the world of professional sports. His office, a reminder of those who he has helped throughout his career.
I was in college football in the NFL, and then I launched my own private sector business called Ignition, where we train pro athletes from all the different major sports. And over a decade, was blessed to have more than 400 professional athletes.
But aside from building muscle, his true strength is building relationships.
I value relationships more than I value results. What I mean by that is developing the trust, the love, the just personal connection with players more than I value how much they can bench press.
As long as the relationships continue to grow and the Hoosiers continue to succeed, Cliff will continue his role from the sidelines.
Well, that clip, audience, our listening audience, if you can't see it, if you want to watch it on TV, please do so. But on the radio, you're hearing a lot of good stuff. But that gentleman that was talking with him was Trace Jackson Davis, who, as you said, was a first-team All-American, now with the Golden State Warriors. That was the last 8 years that Cliff was with the Indiana University Hoosiers. I know that's a bad name in Louisville and Kentucky, but we love him and we love Cliff. So, you mentioned in telling the early part of that story about a superficial walk with the Lord. We're going to come back to all of that as it leads into what you're doing and have been doing for a while. But you and Stacy got shortly after college. Is that right, Cliff?
That's correct. There's a lot of beautiful things about meeting your high school sweetheart. I was 15 years old when I met Stacy. She was 17. Again, both of us went to Harrison County High School. But neither of us were saved at that time, and we weren't dating to marry. I'm trying to teach my 14-year-old daughter now how to date to marry, right? Not date just to be casual or just to have fun. And so in doing that, we basically dated for all throughout high school, all throughout college. And then when I graduated Louisville with my master's degree in 2004, we got married. So I was 24 years old. Stacy had just turned 26. And, we went through, marriage. We kind of checked that box, so to speak. And I wasn't ready for it, to be honest with you. And I'm not sure she was ready for it either. And when I mean ready for it, I mean mature enough for it. And you'll hear in the story, like we began to reap some very bad decisions that we had made over the course of 10 years of dating.
Well, and that's part of where we're going with this, Cliff, because I think it's a powerful message of hope and grace, and you guys have lived that out. Because as things, as you've mentioned, so to speak, things went from bad to worse. They spiraled downward. Obviously, you had the career of your dreams, and you're still doing it. But at that time, with professional and top college athletes, preparing them for the pros, you've worked with many of them. So surely that was enough to satisfy you, right? That got you through.
Professionally, I had everything going the way I wanted it to go, right? From the world view, you would say Cliff Marshall's very successful. He's 24 years old. He's working in the NFL at this point as a strength coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's walking NFL sidelines, probably the youngest coach in the NFL at that time. But again, that was professionally. Personally, my life was spiraling out of control. I was dealing with addiction to alcohol, to gambling, adultery. My wife and I had both dealt with infidelity, and all of these things were coming to surface as I was in Cincinnati and as I was working for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, and that's where we're going, because I want people to hear, when I thought of you being on this program as more of a human interest and a relationship interest story, because I think we need these because they're so important to our culture. This goes back to where you and I met. Again, you were very young when I was in high school, so you wouldn't remember me at all. But your brother-in-law, I mentioned, I think he was in the major leagues maybe 15 years or so. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. He played for the Chicago White Sox, but I believe the coolest thing of his career, being an All-American at Ole Miss, was on his journey to the major leagues. Not to get off track here, but I got to share
it's
this.
Great.
On his journey to the major leagues, he played for the Birmingham Barons, and he was a shortstop that year. He was the player of the year, I believe, in Double-A baseball that year. Had an incredible year, but his center fielder was Michael Jordan. So he got to spend the whole baseball season playing, training, and traveling with Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. He shared with me at one point in time, because we did know each other. He's a little older than you guys. So he shared with me a letter that Michael Jordan wrote to him as he was moving away from baseball and back into, really encouraged Chris and helped him move on through the farm leagues and into the major leagues. And so that was powerful. What was it? You've kind of alluded to this, Cliff, because I think all of this goes together. You wouldn't be where you are in any way, shape, or form if it weren't for the backstory and how the Lord used all of it. What prompted you and Stacy to be willing to, at this point, do the work needed to turn things around, personally, relationally, spiritually? Because I can tell you people have come to me, and if they're willing to listen and do it, the Lord will turn them around, but a lot aren't. What was it for you guys that made you know that this was what needed to be done?
There were two things that happened. Actually, about this time 17 years ago, on Friday, Halloween, I'll celebrate 17 years of sobriety.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, praise God for that. I mentioned my addiction to alcohol there. But on Halloween 2008, Stacy and I were kind of separated. Our marriage was in turmoil. I think we were talking about divorce. She was living her life and I was living my life again. And I was in a situation there, Halloween, where I had been at a party, had drank about 12 beers. I had a 6-pack right next to me. I was driving home at 2 a.m. in the morning. A state cop pulled out behind me. Again, I'm working for the Bengals at this time, had my Bengals tag in my rearview mirror. And I thought to myself, if I get pulled over for this DUI, my career's over. I threw the 6-pack of beer out on the road. I prayed to God, if you spare me of this DUI, I'll never drink again. And by the grace of God, that was the last night that I took a sip of alcohol. I've been sober ever since.
Wow. It's a powerful story, Cliff. I knew it, but I wanted our listeners to hear that. So, by the way, again, join us. Text your questions or comments to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission of Kentucky's Voice, like to financially support us, text KY Voice KYVOICE, to 53555. Welcome back, our listeners or viewers.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
We welcome back our listeners or viewers, however you're joining us, as we continue to share the story of Cliff Marshall, a Kentucky native son, and how the Lord has used him to impact many. Cliff, we ended the last segment, and I know there's more left to say about that, and it's going to actually lead us into this segment. So continue with how the Lord was working and moving in your life and your marriage to move you toward where you are today.
Yeah, I just left off there with Halloween being the last night that I drank alcohol in 2008 and celebrating 17 years recovery. From Halloween, I go to Thanksgiving because Stacy and I, being married, we were apart at Thanksgiving. We had separated. We were on the verge of divorce. We were basically getting ready to go meet with a lawyer in our hometown of Cynthiana, Kentucky. But as I was laying in bed one night, I felt the Holy Spirit speak to me in a way it was very direct, very clear, and I couldn't fight it. And the Holy Spirit said, "Go save your bride. Go save your high school sweetheart." Because I had wandered away and she had wandered away. And the world was telling us to divorce. Our family, our friends, our colleagues, everybody was telling us to divorce. But we had a couple of strong foundations, and her brother being one of them. And that's when he reached out. And then I'll fast forward to Christmas of 2008. I remember us having made the decision, like, this is going to be hard, but we're going to fight for our marriage, and we're going to go meet with Greg Williams, and we're going to try to save this and redeem our marriage. And in December of 2008, we were born again. We literally drove to a church right outside Cincinnati, Ohio, where we were living. We were crushed in spirit. We fell to our knees at a cross and cried real tears. And I cried out to God that he would forgive me, that he would save me, and that he would redeem my marriage.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because a couple years ago, my wife and I drove back to that church, and we took my 14-year-old daughter, 10-year-old son with us, and we shared that story. We told our kids about how we decided to save our marriage. And in doing so, I've said it 1,000 times, it's the best decision we've ever made.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when you all called me and when you started coming, one of the things that you said was that this is paraphrasing, but what are we missing? We are attending church. We're doing what the church says to do. We're doing all those things, but there's still something missing. And what I call in our book, The Authority of Love, second edition, what I call churchianity. You guys were playing church, and honestly, the church was allowing you to do it. They weren't challenging you or holding you accountable in hardly any way. Now, part of that was on you, wasn't just the church. Part of that was on you guys, and we talked about that. But that was what I saw start to change almost immediately. You guys recognized the facade, the superficial churchianity or playing church, and really moved into building a relationship with Jesus Christ, both of you, and together in your marriage. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we were doing religion. We were checking the box on Sundays. We weren't doing a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
In other words, we were living and thinking that God could change us from the outside in. And I had to realize that God has to change you from the inside out.
Yeah.
In other words, we were going through the motions. We were playing church. And in surrendering to God, and making the decision to meet with you, Greg, and to learn truth in love, our next step was to join a small group
Yeah.
of like-minded believers in our church that could help us along our journey. And that was huge too, because I thought that they would maybe ridicule us of our story. Maybe they would judge us or, look at us differently.
Yeah.
But man, they loved us just the same way that Christ loves the church and welcomed us into their family. And they helped us during a very difficult time in that transition. And we're still very close to those friends to this day.
Yeah, I'm sure you are, because that leads me to the next point that I know one of your favorite verses. I think we've talked about it, but I know you've talked with many. Is 1 Chronicles 4, 9, and 10, commonly known as the prayer of Jabez. You and Stacy began to really pray that on your lives, and explain a little bit of that to our listeners.
Yeah, First Chronicles 4:10, the prayer of Jabez. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. You would keep me from evil, so I would not cause you pain. I had ran across that book even before I got saved, and read chapters of it. Kind of questioned it, but then I know Greg, you shared it with us as well. But it's really transformed our life, especially me being a coach in this profession. God has certainly enlarged our territory. But I believe the reason he's enlarged our territory is so that we can share our testimony with hundreds, if not thousands.
Yeah.
We're asked to speak at churches. We're asked to speak at different events with fellowship Christian athletes, and we never hesitate. We always want to take that opportunity because we feel like it is truly the prayer of Jabez. And professionally, in my career, as I reflect back the last 20 years, being at the University of Louisville, being with the Cincinnati Bengals, being here at Indiana University, leading the men's basketball team as a strength and conditioning coach, and training almost 500 professional athletes that have earned a combined salary of $1.89 billion. When I reflect on all of that, being from a small town in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, like God has truly blessed me. He's blessed my family, but he's done it so we can share our testimony.
Yeah. And I would piggyback on that, Cliff, to say this. One of the things that I always share in our ministry and talking with men and couples is when Christ is Lord of your life, there's a priority order in which you live your life. And in the midst of doing all that, what I have seen you do over and over again, and I'm so proud of you and encouraged, is that you've kept those priorities in place. You and Stacy have kept the Lord first, your marriage, your family, and then, Lord, you continue to use us in our professional career and wherever you want to. And that's what he's done. What does that look like for you?
Well, for me, it's the kingdom priorities that you taught us in the love and lordship studies that we were doing with you. I mean, it's keeping God first, right?
Yes.
It's keeping your family second. And then it's keeping your work third. And that's hard in the coaching profession, especially when you step up and you're coaching at a school like Indiana University, where the men's basketball program is very, very important. But I try to live my life with an eternal perspective. In other words, that I know eventually I'm going to take my final breath. And when I reflect back on my life, I want to make sure that my family knew the kingdom priorities for us was faith, family, then my profession.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing, Cliff, that we've talked about before. You do that in such a way that you want everyone to know that that's your priorities. But if you're not living it out in your marriage and family, regardless of where you are in the church, and the church is extremely important here, but if you're not living it out in your marriage and family, ultimately, as you had already experienced, many of those things are going to crumble. But you did that. What would you say to our audience today with regard to that?
Renew yourself daily, right? I got saved in 2008. But it wasn't like a decision that I made and then everything is fine. You can just hit it in cruise control.
That's called discipleship walk, actually, right?
Discipleship walk. You have to work out your faith every single day. It's no different than working on your fitness, right? I'm training all these professional athletes and I'm working them hard every single day, lifting weights, conditioning, watching them, control their nutrition. Their recovery. We have to work our faith out the exact same way. It's a daily choice to walk in the way of the Lord and to be a disciple of the Lord. So I say renew yourself daily, and that will allow your marriage to be sustained and to be fruitful, as well as your family, and I believe your career as well.
Absolutely. And that's where faith comes in. I'll say this as we kind of close out this segment, Cliff. You were doing all those things that you described in your profession, in your vocation, while everything else was falling apart, right? Can you, and again, what would you say to our audience? Can you trace everything back to that time and connect it with this prayer of Jabez, Lord, how will you give me more influence? Because I was already having influence, at least in the professional world, right? You were with hundreds of top-notch, Hall of Fame. You got Hall of Fame athletes in your resume, brother. And so you were with them even before this happened, but now it all began to turn around. At that point in time, when the Lord got your attention, you and Stacy responded, and is that when he began to turn your whole life around? What does that look like, not only your marriage and family, but in the profession?
Let me say this, Greg. Whatever you're chasing, if it's not Jesus, when you catch it, you still won't be satisfied.
Amen.
Having worked with those Hall of Fame athletes, those NFL Pro Bowlers, there's NBA lottery picks. What I have learned is the game of basketball, money, sex, power, drugs, alcohol, it never fulfills you. It can never sustain you. Only God can do that. I've learned by my own admission that I've looked for those same things. Before 2008, I looked to drugs, to alcohol, to women, to the success of my coaching career to fulfill me. But at the end of the day, it left me empty. And now it's my job as a coach to these professional athletes that I work with to be the influence to the influencer. The influence to the influencer.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just was recently in Los Angeles. I actually took an opportunity where I was in a movie with Tom Brady, Kevin Durant, and an influencer called I Show Speed. Now, I Show Speed is a worldly influencer, but he's the biggest influencer in the world right now. He's got 100 million followers. Most of them are teenagers. And I prayed to God he would give me an opportunity to have 5 minutes alone with Speed. And he did. And I was able to bless him with a Bible, a God Strong shirt, and a couple of God Strong bands. And it just is a reminder that my job is to influence the influencer.
Yeah, because you obviously do it on the physical side, but you have learned and are growing in and continue to help others how to do it on the spiritual side. So we're going to hear more on this with our guest, Cliff Marshall, training director of D1 Training and founder of God Strong Ministries, in our final segment. So stay with us. Remember, if you like what's going on, text KY Voice to 53555 to make a financial contribution.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KY Voice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stay Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
I think, just to piggyback real quickly on what you said in small groups, at first we were kind of scared to join a group and to share our story, but we had to get out of our comfort zone.
That's good.
Right, in order to grow. And I tell my athletes that all the time. You don't grow in your comfort zone, so it's my job to make you uncomfortable when we work out. Our faith journey is no different. We have to get out of our comfort zone.
So good.
And I think just in closing, my encouragement today is that all pain has purpose. And God doesn't cause pain, but he can use pain to draw us closer to him. And that's what he did with Stacy and I.
So good.
Thank you. We had to lose our marriage to save our marriage. And we had to lose our life in order to save our life. And had we let Satan win, we wouldn't have stood before you today.
Right.
We wouldn't have two beautiful kids sitting right here on the front row, a 9-year-old boy and a 13-year-old daughter. We wouldn't have a ministry here in Bloomington. And I just know the Bible verse, John 10:10, is a life verse for me. It says, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That was his agenda for our marriage. But it later goes on to say, but I, Jesus, come to give you life.
Yes.
And life to the full.
Yes.
And that's what we're living now.
Come on. Let's amen. Give it up for that. Let's show those pictures real quick, guys. This is their family. Come on. It's a miracle. And Stacy, do you want to share about that picture?
So this is Indiana softball team, and I had 2 girls this year, about a month ago, come forward and give their life to Christ out of our group. So.
Well, that clip you just heard, or if you're watching on TV, you got to see more of it, so I encourage you to do that, was of Cliff and Stacy's testimony at their church in Bloomington, Indiana. I can tell you this, that I've had the privilege to have somewhat of a front row seat with many men and couples as the Lord has turned their lives around, and now they're being used mightily by him in many areas. One of my favorites, if not my favorite, is the story of Cliff and Stacy Marshall, and now their family, their work, and their ministry that the Lord has them in. With that, I welcome back Cliff Marshall, Training Director of D1 Training. I'm going to leave it at that, and the founder of God's Strong Ministries. Remember, join us. Text your questions or comments to 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission, would like to financially support, text KY Voice, KYVOICE, to 53555. Cliff, again, welcome back, bud, and thanks for sharing with our audience today, as I know the Lord will use it to impact at least one, as we've prayed, and likely many through your story. I want to close out with two things in this final segment, Cliff. Number one, share with our audience about D1, and in particular how it connects with God Strong and the ministry the Lord had you start. And before you do that, tell us a bit about the ministry that Stacy had. We got to hear a little bit there from her in the clip, and what she has done and continues to do.
Yeah, I can't praise my wife enough. She's truly a servant, and I watch her from afar each day and what she does. So currently, she leads our God Strong ministry here in Bloomington, Indiana, where she volunteers to lead Bible study in our house for IU athletes, including IU women's basketball players, softball players, soccer, track and field, swimming and diving. She loves on these girls. She meets them individually to disciple them. And what's even so cool is this year, she's done this for 8 years. I think there's 4 girls who have come out of this Bible study who are now on college campuses throughout the country who are leading Bible studies in the same way. So she's truly discipling, and she does this for free. This is her passion. This is her gift. She's not paid for it. In addition to that, she's a long-term sub because she feels the need to go into these schools in Bloomington, Indiana, and love on 3rd and 4th and 5th grade kids that need help, that maybe not getting love at home. She is a PTO president. She's just a servant, and I can't talk enough about her. And the God Strong ministry is just all about, for us, sharing with athletes, sharing with college students the love of Jesus Christ and what he had done in our life. And for me, the last 8 years, I've been blessed to lead the team being a team chapel role. And in addition to the strength and conditioning role I had at Indiana, I would lead Bible study and I would lead optional game day chapels for the Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball team. And that was the most rewarding part of my time here at Indiana. That leads me into what I'm doing now at D1. You can't have a testimony without a test. And my wife and I have been tested in many ways over our lifetime. In April, we faced another test. Our head coach, Mike Woodson, resigned his position at Indiana University. He's now back in the NBA. So the months of April, May, and June, really, I was trying to figure out, God, where do you want me? What do you want from us?
A lot of people praying for you too, brother.
A lot of people praying for us, and we felt those prayers. But remember, every morning I pray the prayer of Jabez that says, enlarge my territory and bless us indeed. And in June, I got a phone call from the founder and owner of a company called D1 Sports Training. They have 150 facilities nationwide. They have 800 strength coaches in their system. They train over 30,000 athletes per week throughout America. And I was offered to come on board as the director of pro athlete training and senior director of coaching, which means I get to go to these facilities and impact or influence the influencers. So meet with coaches, meet with athletes, share my story, right, for God's glory. And then I get to work with some of the best athletes in the world. And all in doing so, we prayed that God would allow us to stay in Bloomington because we have a ministry here. And also because my kids are rooted here, being here the last 8 years with their friend groups, their sport teams, their schools. And man, God showed up. He showed out and he answered that prayer. So I'm a couple months into my job with D1, and I'm super excited for the opportunity and just give God all the honor, glory, and praise because of it.
Yeah, when you think, Cliff, of where you guys were 17 to 20 plus years ago, where you were walking and what was happening in your lives to where you are now, it's truly incredible. How have you seen God then move you into this position with D1 and with Godstrong, the ministry that you do. You told me when you got this, there's a ministry involved with this as well. I don't want to say anything that I shouldn't, so I'll leave that to you. But there's a ministry, not necessarily an arm, but one of the people's involved with this, and you are going to get some opportunities there as well to influence even more.
Yeah, great point, Greg. The brand ambassador and an investor in the company at D1 is Tim Tebow. And I have always admired Tim Tebow from afar. And I'm super excited because in November, he and I are going to have the opportunity to share the stage together at the D1 Franchise Summit in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm excited to just meet him, talk with him, learn from him. But I love everything that he's about and everything that he believes in. And across all the D1s that you would walk into in America, you'll see on the wall it says iron sharpens iron. And there's not a lot of people I would rather be sharpened by than Tim Tebow or Greg Williams.
Well, I don't belong in that category, but I do appreciate it, and you're doing the same thing, Cliff. That's the beauty of this. So what you're really describing is what the Bible would call discipleship, where you're not just content to go sit in church and listen and hear or be involved in activities. And again, those are good things. But what we need to do is have people that are equipped to go out and equip others. And that's what you're doing. Again, join us with text or questions at 502-571-0970. If you believe in the mission and financial support is part of that, text KY Voice, KYVOICE to 53555. If you're just joining, we're near the end, but we're with special guest Coach Cliff Marshall of D1 Sports Training and the founder of Godstrong Ministry. Cliff, what do you envision now moving forward with your career in this ministry outreach? I know you're excited about preparing these young athletes for great careers, but even more so preparing them to be godly men, servant leaders in their lives, their marriages, their families, on and off the field or court, however that may apply.
Well, Greg, 1 Timothy 4:8 says, "For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for the present life and the life to come." In other words, I want to coach these athletes with an eternal perspective.
Yeah.
God's not going to ask them how many touchdowns they scored, how many points they scored, what their vertical jump was, or what their 40-yard dash was. He's going to ask them, how did you know me, and love others while you were on earth? And how did you use your platform? And so for me, it's all about sharing that message with my athletes, right? And, just sharing God's love, and even me reflecting on my story and just sharing it with you today. It's unique because God loved me when I was 20 years old in my darkest hour, dealing with drugs, alcohol, adultery, as much as he loves me right where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And the Bible says in John 3:17, "For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him."
Yes.
And I pray there's one person right now listening on the radio or maybe watching on TV in Louisville, Kentucky, that may be in a dark place that I was, that may be struggling in their marriage like I was, that maybe they've lost a job just like I did, but they would feel Jesus reaching down to them and trying to save them.
Yes. Amen.
And
Cliff.
all we have to do is respond, and God will do the rest.
Cliff, that's awesome. I sure appreciate you being with us today. And I hope that we know in prayer that God is doing something and he will move on at least one, but I believe many. Again, if you'd like to financially support Kentucky's Voice, text KY Voice, KYVOICE to 53555. Give the audience a contact venue for you, Cliff.
For sure. Any social media platform, it's under @Cliff Marshall. So it's CLIF, just one F, MARSHALL. You can also go to my website, CoachCliffMarshall.com. And right on that website, you can send me an email if I can be of help in any way, shape, or form. Please reach out to me in that regard.
Thanks for joining us, Cliff, today. I can't think of a better way to not only close out this program with our special guest, Cliff Marshall, than to quote the verse that you use in God's Strong from Ephesians 6:10 and 11. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the enemy and his schemes. Thank you for joining us. Make it a great day, and God bless in Christ.